Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about creating your own television program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
Hello, and welcome to the American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. Carl Fowler is a co-host, and also joining us today is Jack Hannigan. He's a member of the Korean War Veterans Association. Also, our guest today is Mark Williams. He's 23 years service, 23 years in the Army. Obtained the rank of Master Sergeant. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you, Dale.
When did you join the Army anyway?
I joined straight out of high school in 1978.
78. And took your basic where?
At Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. Combat engineer at 12 Bravo.
Oh. What made you join the Army other than the Marines or the Navy or Air Force, Coast Guard?
I really don't know why I joined the Army versus one of the other branches. I just realized I needed to do something, and that I saw the military as an option for some direction. And
it's a good choice.
And I think the Army recruiter was probably on me a little bit more than the other branches.
Yeah. Where all did you serve?
Well, I started basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, and then I went to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, 299th Engineer Battalion there. Spent a year and a half or so there, and went on to Korea and spent 2 years in Korea from 80 to 82.
Oh, whereabouts in Korea?
I was at Camp Edwards, which is just south of the DMZ. For the first year, and then the second year I went down to a Camp Casey area, which there was a 2nd Engineer Battalion there at next to Camp Casey.
Okay.
Camp Casey was in, I forget what town it was in now, but yeah, it was right, there was a post Engineer Battalion right up from Camp Casey.
Okay. But at that time, wasn't most of the troops at the DMZ, or was they back away from the DMZ?
There was a pretty sizable force on the DMZ, but their military was scattered throughout Korea.
Oh, were they?
But we did some of the lookout posts. We did the reinforcement of the bunkers, the sandbag bunkers, and things of that sort that were right up on the DMZ.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the Army camps in Korea at all. There was nothing there when I was there.
Well, there's JSA, which is Joint Service Task Force or something like that. I forget exactly. I thought it was JSA, but anyways, they were right up on the DMZ. Camp Edwards. There was an artillery base that was just south of us, and then the next would be Seoul. Bases in around Seoul area.
Oh.
But up north there, I know of 3 or 4 different bases that were up there, and then right up on the DMZ there were different posts and lookout posts.
That was 88, you said?
It was 80 to 82.
80. Things were pretty well built back up by then, probably, wasn't they?
Yeah, things were built up a little bit more. There was still a little bit of tension in the area. One of the biggest tension factors that were going on at the time was the tree cutting incident, which was in '76, I believe. And this was only 4 years later, so obviously it was still a hot subject. And and we were pretty well versed on that incident, and sort of a reality check to wake people up and make them realize that this isn't a vacation. It's.
You want to explain what that was all about?
Well, there was a tree that blocked a view of some lookout post in between the north and the south, and the some folks from the lookout post, captain I believe, and lieutenant, and some Korean assigned soldiers went up to trim the tree, and evidently they were confronted by some North Korean soldiers, and they didn't stop cutting the tree. So I guess from what I understand about it is they were murdered by axes, basically, by the North Koreans. And they call it the axe murder or tree cutting incident. There was a variety of different names that they may have named it. But then I did find out later on that they, and the reason I knew about it so much was my actual unit, Bravo Company, 2nd Engineer Battalion, and Charlie Company, I believe, went up and actually ended up cutting the tree shortly after. I think it was only a few days afterwards. They went back in force, in numbers, and they actually cut the tree down. They left the stump of the tree, the base of it, and up, I think it was 10 to 20 foot, but they trimmed all the foliage up above that. And
sure.
And probably just did it to show them that it was going to get done.
Exactly. And they were confronted, but there was no action at that point because they were in such large numbers when they went back the second time. So, but they did get the tree down.
Well, there's always been problems there. I don't know how it is now.
Well, I imagine there's still problems today.
I would imagine so.
I would think so.
Yeah. Tensions aren't too bad. I think that things have sort of settled. There hasn't really been any major incidents since the tree cutting incident. There have been some incidents where patrols have went across the DMZ and have been fired upon, and I'm sure some folks have died in the result of that, because I heard of some myself when I was there. So
there's been a lot of them, I guess, that have died since since '53.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I was wondering, you said you was in an engineering group. You guys did more than sandbags, I'm sure. You did lots of road building, or?
Well, a lot of construction projects, but most of the combat engineer activities were either creating bridges or obstacles. We created obstacles a lot in slowing down the enemy forces.
Sure. Okay.
We would do road craters, blowing up roads, bridges, creating tree obstacles across roads with selected C4 placement or dynamite.
That was self-preservation. You guys was looking out for a possible invasion again.
Correct.
Them coming back at you.
And we were there. The engineer's job mostly is to support the infantrymen, and that's to either clear the way or create obstacles to slow down the enemy advancement.
Okay, sure.
And mostly, a lot of it was explosives.
These pretty large towns where you was stationed at?
Very small towns.
Very small.
Very small. And until the first year. The second year, when I got down south, Dongelchan, it seems to ring a bell, but Camp Casey was in a pretty sizable town, and the engineer post was less than a mile up the road. So, but up at Camp Edwards for the first year, they were very small towns. I couldn't even... Huntertown small, maybe. But definitely smaller than that, even.
Yeah.
Just villages, then, really.
Villages, correct. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I never saw a village.
No.
Yeah.
We went in through Pusan, of course, saw that, and left at Incheon, and Incheon was bare cement walls standing there yet.
Right.
Just cleaned up is all. Yeah. I think most of the troops now are clear down in the southern part of.
I believe that some of the post, the outpost, the lookout posts are still there, and I believe, to my knowledge, the engineer posts are still. Engineer company is still up there. I don't think that their roles are as active as what they once were, but I think the presence is still there.
Oh, I knew that the South Koreans was handling. I thought they was handling all of that anymore.
They have moved in a lot, and the South Koreans, even when I was there, they would attach certain members to the American Army, and they were called Katusas, and they worked along with the American Army. And
we had them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they had their own army, which was the Rock Army.
Yeah.
But they handled a lot, but yet I think it's just presence mostly.
Yeah. You know, the veterans, South Korean government will pay our expenses over there for a week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
We pay the biggest share of the transportation, but they'll pay, yeah. I don't think I could stand to be on an airplane that long.
That is a long
and I don't
time.
believe that they can stay up in the air that long anyway.
That was a very long flight. Actually, my wife is Korean, and
yeah, I was going to bring that up, but
and we flew back with our son, which was 6 months old at the time.
Oh,
that was a long flight, I'll tell you.
I can imagine. I can imagine it would be, yes.
Is that a problem anymore? Getting married and getting permission to get married?
At the time, I don't know how it is now necessarily, but at the time you had to have permission from your commanding officer in order to get married in Korea. Wanted to make sure it was a legitimate marriage. There were some illegitimate marriages going on at the time, and they wanted to prevent that from happening. Yeah. And we've been married for 31 years now.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay. I think we've all seen your wife. She's a very attractive woman.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Very nice gal. I was going to ask you, was there any kind of a culture shock or anything when you first got there, coming over from the States into Korea? It's a different country.
Right.
I just wondering, did you have to go through any adoption or?
They have a what they called a turtle farm that all new arrivals went to for, I think it was 10 days or 2 weeks indoctrination period, to where they could acclimate you to the environment and get you used to what it was like to
So you
to
knew
serve.
what to expect.
Exactly. So you spent at least 10 days in there to get to know where you were at and the environment that you were in.
Okay.
And it was different. The first year, I would say that it was a great experience. I mean, it was a new culture that I got to experience, and people and so on. So it was really very interesting. The first year, the second year, and usually you only stay for 1 year. I re-enlisted for current duty because at the time we were together, and we were, the likelihood we were going to get married, but we wanted to make sure that we were right for one another, so I stayed a second year. Yeah. But the second, I think the reason the tour is only 1 year is because 2 years is just a little bit long unless you have your family and support structures there. It's a little bit, it got a little frustrating the second year, but nothing that anybody did wrong. It was just the environment that you're in. You had to be accustomed to, and you didn't accept as many things as normal the second.
Your wife's probably got a lot of relatives back there. Yeah.
She has some relatives. Her brother and nephew, and his brother's wife and nephew live there. Actually, her nephew served in the Korean Rock Army. He was a paratrooper with the Rock Soldiers. And last I heard of him is he was studying Russian. He was in Russia learning Russian. So he's trying to. There's some activity goes on between Russia and South Korea. So he's trying to use it for business.
Have you been back? Oh, excuse me, Carl. Have you been back since then?
I have not been back. We really would like to go back. We'd like to take the kids back. My son's now 31 actually, and he was born there. So we'd like to actually take the kids. So we have 3 children, and we'd like to. They're not kids anymore. The youngest is 24, but I'd like to take them to Korea and just have that experience. And we'd more than likely do some sort of resort type setting. And they do have Jeju-do, which I think it's Jeju-do, which is an island that's south off of Busan, or somewhere off of Busan. Pardon?
Chojido.
Chojido, and it's sort of a resort, and they have through the military. There's the military has certain resorts. That's one of the resorts that the military has, and we're really thinking about going there someday, taking the family, maybe spending a week, and make it a vacation slash history lesson.
Sure. That used to be the prison?
That was the Korean prison where the airborne jumped in to settle down the riots back in 52, 53.
I was going to say it didn't used to be a resort.
No, it was Chojido. Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
We all got memories go back that far, but it is quite a few years.
Yeah, it is.
Talking about culture shock, I bet it was really a shock when you brought your wife back here.
It was interesting. Her English was not refined yet as it is now, but it took quite a while for her to adjust and to the environment. The environment was different. My parents accepted her. There was no problems there, and we adjusted fairly well. When you're around a military base, you have such a mixture of people from different origins that it's pretty common. So it's very, very much so acceptable than some other places may be.
Yeah. I wish you could have come today and been on the program with us.
Yeah, and that's how I met you guys, was through the Korean church here, and your affiliation with the Korean church, and her being a member of the Fort Wayne Presbyterian Korean congregation.
Yeah, and I want to bring up that the Koreans community here appreciate the Korean War veterans.
They do. They support.
We appreciate that.
We've all enjoyed the fact that they honor us so much, and it touches your heart.
Yeah,
and because not many countries that we've been in do that.
Right, that's true. That's very
true. So South Korea is outstanding in that respect.
I believe so.
I don't think I mentioned that Mark is the latest member of the Korean War Veterans Association.
I probably am, and one of the youngest, probably.
Welcome.
I hope many other ones that served in Korea after the war would join.
Right.
We're native members.
And Jack might be able to help you with the registry on that through your contacts.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
As far as identifying some of them folks and letting them know.
Just recently, Jack DeWitt just joined. He was a Navy medic.
See the one they introduced
yes,
last meeting?
At the last meeting. Yeah, I found him as part of my Veterans Affairs.
Good.
Sure.
Good.
I've talked to a couple of others, but they're getting up in years, and they say they're not interested in joining the organization at this time. So,
where else did you serve?
From Korea, we went to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, where I was with the Engineer Battalion there. Can't remember the battalion now, but served there for 3 years. During that time, the company went to Panama twice for jungle warfare training. Each year, they would go each year, and each year they would try to get new people to go so they could get certified, jungle warfare certified. But they didn't have enough people, so they ended up pulling people in that had already been there once. And that was quite an experience. Spent a month in Panama there. And then we spent 30 days in Mojave Deserts there out in California for desert training. And did that twice. And then from there I got selected for Army recruiting.
Yeah.
In 1985. And
you asked for it, or
they selected me. They selected me.
Good.
And it was really. I mean, there was a lot of things that went on during that time. That well, one is I thought about getting out of the Army after 7 years, At that time at Fort Campbell, being an engineer, we spent a lot of time in the field on deployments. We went to Panama, we went to Mojave Desert, and there was some amphibious training that was going on and stuff in different locations. And when you were back at Garrison, you were in the field constantly. Mm-hmm. You might have had 2 weeks out of the month if you're lucky back at Garrison. We had 2 children at the time, so I was really thinking about getting out. It was just a lifestyle that put me away from the family more than I really desired at the time. Mm-hmm. The wife, in her strong faith, had the pastor come out and say a prayer, help me make my decision, and within a couple of weeks I had selection for recruiting duty, which was an office job, air conditioned, home every night. So wow. It sort of fit my desires at the time. The unit that I was attached to at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, ended up, they went to the cyanide training, and on their flight back, the flight crashed. That was in 1985. Mm-hmm. So the guys that I worked with were in likelihood that I could have been on that flight as well, or more likely would had. So it was sort of a strange feeling to have escaped that possibility.
You mourned their loss, but at the same time you had a sense of relief, didn't you?
Yes, yes.
And both working against each other, but
right.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Now, as a recruiter then, did you go around to different cities? Is that it, or what?
I started in Dayton, Ohio, in recruiting. Spent 3 years there, and the Army likes to move you every 3 years, so I spent 3 years in Dayton, the Kettering recruiting station, and then I went to Cincinnati and spent 3 years in Cincinnati, Mount Healthy, then 3 years in Columbus. So I was lucky enough to stay in the same
state. The area.
And originally from Toledo, Ohio, so it worked out perfect. We'd go home and visit and stuff. Spent 3 years there. Then I went off to Houston, Texas for 3 years. And then my last assignment was here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, as the first sergeant of the Fort Wayne Recruiting Company.
Good. All right.
You decided to stay.
I decided to stay, exactly. It's a 3-year tour for recruiters, and the ones that are looking for punishment stay longer, like myself, because recruiting is not what it sounds like. It sounds great, and it was great in many ways. I mean, but there were ways that it was very frustrating and mind-boggling, but I decided I was a glutton for punishment, and I stayed for 16 years in Army recruiting. Retired as a first sergeant of Fort Wayne Recruiting Company.
Sure.
Sounds like you enjoyed recruiting. I suppose you meet a lot of the kids, and
I did enjoy it. It was you'd go out to high schools. When I first started recruiting, you'd go out to high schools and give class presentations and go out in the area and meet kids out doing different activities, and a lot of phone prospecting back in that day. Today it's not so much phone prospecting because a lot of people don't have landlines anymore. They have cell phones, and so lists are hard to obtain. And but it was a good time. I had a good experience. I really enjoyed it. But you have a mission, you have a quota, and
I was going to ask you a quota.
It is a quota, and people would, at the time, I'd never admit it was a quota. It was a mission, and it was a mission, but it was a quota at the same time.
So if you was behind, you had to stretch your hours a little bit, didn't you?
Exactly.
In your visits.
Exactly, and on the 30th of the month, when the month ended, it don't matter how great you were, the next day was the first of the month, and you're back at zero.
It was ground zero, starting out again.
From hero to zero overnight.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was an experience, but I did enjoy it.
Okay. You probably were successful at it.
I was, and I did a couple tours in operations. So I got a little bit more of the battalion level organization and the management of it and policies and looking at the big numbers rather than just the individual station or company level.
Sure.
And that was, and then 2 tours as a first sergeant, which I really enjoyed.
Back at Panama, is that mosquito infested like I think it would be?
Not so much mosquitoes. I think there was a lot of other elements that had people concerned. One was the vampire bats, the killer bees. There was one particular incident that just before our arrival, a lieutenant had been stung 250 times in the head face area by killer bees, and their remedy was to stay away. There's really not a solution for someone being stung by bees, by killer bees, but you definitely don't want to go towards them. You want to stay away from them. So you're really helpless. You can try to splash some water on you. You can try to move out of the area as quickly as you can, but that's a bad situation, being stung by 250 bees.
Yes. Yeah.
Very bad.
So lots of poison.
Yes, and vampire bats, snakes, frogs. Poisonous frogs. You name it. There was a little bit of everything, and there was I believe it was a 17-mile. There were 2 road marches during the 30-day course, and one of them was long and one was a short. And I believe the long was 17 miles. They would truck you out some back dirt road and drop you off, give you a compass and a map, and you and your squad, of 8 or 10 guys, would find your way back. And then they had a big tower back at the main camp, and everybody was issued flares, first aid kit, and things of that sort. And the idea was to get back before dark, 6 p.m. And we did. But the next morning at 8 o'clock, there were still people coming in. There were flares going off all night, people trying to identify their locations to find their way in. And it's a very challenging course. There's no roads. You're walking through the jungle, and it's very easy
cross country.
Very easily to get turned around. There's a lot of obstacles in your way. So it was fun. It was interesting.
I can imagine. But completing such a course gave you lots of self-confidence.
Sure did, yes. And the second time going back, we took engineer squad, top engineer squad of the course. So
well, it sounds like you had a well-rounded career.
I did.
Did you enjoy your time?
I absolutely
service?
did. Absolutely, and it was definitely worth it, and I enjoyed it. And I'd do it all
I want to
over
thank
again.
you for your service. I appreciate what you've done.
Thank you, sir.
Would you recommend? You'd recommend these kids?
I would recommend the military as a viable option for a young person trying to further themselves. Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I don't want to get into politics, but Afghanistan is something else.
It is. It's a tough situation, and people are called, and they're in a tough spot, and they have to make tough decisions. So it's a very tough situation that hopefully is resolved here soon.
Yeah. Somebody asked me if I wouldn't go back in now, and I said I wouldn't be smart enough to go back in.
No, I think these kids over there face a tough foe.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely a challenge for them.
Bad as any we've had.
Yes.
It is,
because you don't know who they are.
No.
Can't identify them.
That's true.
Could be anybody.
Jack, do you have anything you want to jump in on?
Well, the thing that interested me is that you were down in jungle warfare training.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was great. It really was a great experience. And Panama was a great experience too, as well. We had a little time off.
Well, Mark, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you, Dale. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks, Jack.
for your service.
And thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the show, we're on Friday nights, 7:30. And if you meet a veteran or someone in uniform, just walk up to them, say thank you for your service. Thank you, and good night.
Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent